So retrocommissioning, quick overview here. Like we mentioned, this is involving someone going on site and tuning everything up really, really well, and just having that store humming perfectly when that person leaves the site. And so I guess questions for you, Will, what is the typical scope of an on-site retrocommissioning?
Yeah, so this is nothing new, right? This has been around for decades. There's sort of best practices, and there's clear outcomes that are targeted, and there's a lot of time spent just delivering boilerplate scope. So the scope, hey, there might not actually be a tremendous amount of improvement in this one particular aspect of the scope for this one store, but we're doing it anyway, and it doesn't matter, and we just basically go through the motions. And then on the flip side, possibly there are areas that really demand relatively a lot more attention. And because it's boilerplate, there's not as much flexibility to really spend the time to diagnose, troubleshoot, improve, and permanently adjust the trajectory of that one measure. So it's depending on what your focus is and what the lens is of your recommissioning. This could be 2 days, it could be 2 weeks. And, I think we're constantly asking ourselves, where is the time best spent? Where do we kind of hit that sweet spot of time on site to kilowatt hours, real kilowatt hour savings delivered? And so, anyway, this isn't going away. The going on site with the right skilled person to make these changes, turn the wrench, make the programming adjustment, and be there long enough to make sure that they can actually prove out that something has become better. That this part's not going away, but I think where we're going is, well,
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah, a couple of questions, follow-ups there. Can you talk about sustainability of savings with this approach, and I guess also scalability?
So, this typical model uses a third-party commissioning agent that is typically not the servicing contractor at that store, who has a lived history inside of that facility that the third-party commissioning agent doesn't really have any appreciation for, because they're there to do this very defined scope, and then they're on to the next site. And there's sort of not enough conversation that happens along the way to sort of say, hey, by the way, this one rack, we always have this one issue. It's because of this. So you miss that, and it's just, anyway, that's a bit of a limitation.
Yep. One thing that we say here is that there's a rapid degradation of savings every 2 years. And in many cases, I think that that's a pretty conservative statement. We're seeing rapid degradation of savings over 2 weeks.
Right.
After these recommendations happen.
Typically that's being driven by a set point gets adjusted, something mechanically is adjusted on site to minimize compression ratios. And then typically it's a refrigerant level issue, and it's, hey, there's not enough gas in the tank. We're not able to sustain the low head. We're not able to optimize the float. What do? You just pull it apart as soon as the commissioning agent leaves. Don't add the gas, and we're back in the same spot.
Yep. So it gets to the alignment issue of hearing technicians. I've heard this many times in my career. I got hit by a retrocommissioning. So the technician says, I know this site. I've been working on it for a decade. I understand, I have a good feel for this site. Now someone else comes in and, junks up all my set points and all my algorithms. I'm going to undo that as soon as they leave.
Yeah.
And so it's not a question. And it's interestingly, it's because that tech cares, and they take a lot of pride in their work that they're doing this, because what they care about is uptime and keeping product cold. But obviously those are really, really important outcomes, but they're missing that last outcome, which is energy efficiency.
Correct.
So that's where we have the misalignment. And then I think lastly, the visibility element here, these are great from a site-by-site perspective, but we don't have the ability with this methodology to see what's going on across sites, to monitor it remotely, to empower decision makers at corporate headquarters, or to really compare sites to one another.